Barcelona went for an all-out attack to make that incredible comeback, but Inzaghi's Inter somehow contained them with their team effort. Let's see how Inter made that comeback. Barca lined up in their typical 4-2-3-1 shape against Inter's 5-3-2. Flick tried to build from the back through the half spaces using the dropping movement of Olmo. In some occasions, Pedri would drag Inter's defensive midfielder Çalhanoğlu wide so that Olmo can drift into those central regions to receive in between the lines and combine with Torres to progress the play. As Inter fielded three midfielders, they matched up with Barca's three-man midfield, but they suffered when Barca overloaded one side with all three midfielders, as it naturally created a 3 vs 2 overload in the midfield. So Inter's solution was to push their centre-backs high to follow those players between the lines. The centre-backs would stay within the reach of the players between the lines so that any ball played could be intercepted or defended. Though it affected Barca at times, they managed to beat this aggressive defending by quick combinations in tight spaces. Thus Inter retreated to their compact low block and Barca began camping in Inter's defensive third. Barca started to search for their typical centre penetration as they inverted the right back to form a narrow triangle with the striker and Yamal. Though Inter defended with marking all those players, Barca beat those defenders with their typical combination plays to penetrate the defensive block. Here we have another triangle with Pedri, Garcia and Yamal. As Yamal keeps the ball, the defense would obviously get disrupted, and this opened up the space for Pedri and Fermi to combine in their favorite tight spaces. Barca were targeting those tiny pockets of space to make unpredictable combinations, but in most cases, Inter's physicality and numerical advantage nullified those attacks. Inter's 5-3 defensive block was not easy to be broken down, and even if the midfield line was penetrated, their centre-back showed excellent timing in jumping out of their position to close down players. The whole block would cover the entire pitch, and Barca were forced to circulate the ball, hoping for a gap. If the ball circulation was slow, Inter could easily shift their block to cancel out Barca's numerical overloads in the ball side. Thus Barca had to rely on Yamal, as seen in the first leg. Often Yamal would get the ball in static situations with no momentum advantage against his opponent. This means Yamal has to create something out of nothing, and Inter made it difficult by doubling upon him as expected. In almost every situation, Inter was able to double mark Yamal using Mkhitaryan, and this denied Yamal from engaging in 1v1 opportunities. His typical crosses through defenders' legs were also dealt by centre-backs. Even if Yamal beats both Di Marco and Mkhitaryan, Bastoni would stop him from shooting. So Yamal had to resort to crossing to the box, and without a proper aerial threat, Barca were easily nullified in aerial situations. It seemed Inter had done a great work in reading Yamal's intentions. Whenever he tried to dribble straight at the defense from half spaces, Inter would push so much numbers to stop him. The whole of Inter's left side were focused on stopping Yamal, and it worked to some extent. Yamal did his best in attracting the defense to penetrate them, but there was no one attacking those throw balls, and ultimately he got tired with all those physical challenges. Now let's see how Inter managed to score 3 goals. During early minutes, Inter had both of their wingbacks high up the pitch for their aggressive press, and Inter's first goal was a result of their high press. But what stood out here was Barca's stubbornness to trap opponents offside. If opponent is trained enough, they have the upper hand in these situations. As Barca played with full backs high, during turnovers, the space will be free on either side of the centre-backs. As done in the first leg, Inter again exploited this space with runs from Dumfries. Without a proper centre defensive midfielder, Barca had no one to contest for the second balls, and thus Inter midfielders often got the time and space to initiate counter-attacks, and then the runners could be released. During the second goal, we could see both De Jong and Pedri drawn desperately towards the ball for their counter-press. With full back high, the striker can exploit that space, and it forced Kubasi to attempt risky tackle, leading to penalty. There were numerous occasions where Inter started their counter-attacks from centre spaces in front of the back line, as Barca played without an orthodox defensive midfielder. For the third goal, Inter pushed their centre-back Acerbi high, increasing their area threats from 2-3 against Barca's 2 centre-backs. Here Kubasi was forced to jump out of his position to contest for the aerial duel, as he had no midfield support to win the duel. This means the centre-back is out of position, and it disrupted Barca's backline, leaving Araujo in a 1v1 against Acerbi, who scored the third goal. Due to the lack of aerially dominant midfielder, Kubasi was tasked to jump out of his position, and it backfired again in the final goal, as both him and De Jong contested for the same ball, and obviously De Jong got beaten. Now backline is again disrupted, with Araujo moving to Kubasi's position. With the technical brilliance of Thuram, Araujo was beaten, and Barca's disrupted defense was penetrated, and Inter scored from the resultant chaos. The match showed how well prepared Inzaghi was to nullify Barca's threats. Meanwhile, Flick was stubborn with his approach, and apart from Yamal's individual moments, Barca is becoming more predictable.